Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Snapshot episode 70. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Snap Phenom, KM Best. KM, I'm actually not used to doing this intro with my one earphone, but I came to an incredible revelation. So I'd been listening back to some podcasts, and I noticed that I would sometimes slur my words. Like I would get to the end of a longer word, and it would just like not materialize effectively. It wasn't really a slur. It was just like not really materializing. And the reason for that was I couldn't hear myself. So how I figured this out is I went to do a solo video, and in the past I've just never been able to do them. I just could not look at the camera, and it's like for some reason I just couldn't do the solo. I was like, this makes no sense. I can talk forever on a podcast, like even when someone else isn't talking, it's totally fine. The reason was I couldn't
right now.
Yes, right now. The reason was I couldn't hear myself, so I took off my headphones and I just didn't have them at the time. And I did a solo video. I went 30 minutes, no problem, easiest thing I've ever done. And I was like, holy shit, I've been basically have not been able to hear myself for 3 years now. And that's why that was causing me so many issues.
I have never even thought of that because I talk very loudly. And so there's no set of headphones in the world that can make me unable to hear myself. It's just simply not a thing I've ever experienced.
I think I had different in-ears. They broke. I got new ones, and these ones were too noise canceling that I couldn't hear myself, and it caused a bunch of issues. But I'm not even kidding. I was listening back to podcasts, and I was like, am I okay? Like, do I need to go to the doctor? Like, no, I'm dead serious. I am dead serious. I was like, because I was not aware that I was doing it. And I was like, that's so bizarre. No one ever comments on this, but like, I can hear that for sure. I just couldn't hear myself. So.
Well, take it from me. Sometimes people don't comment on stuff until it really escalates, and then they comment on it a lot.
It's all at once.
It's very easy to not notice that stuff until 100 people tell you about it.
Yeah. Well, I've leveled up as a content creator now because I just pop an ear out and it's infinitely better. Anyway, how's your week in Marvel Snap been?
Pretty good. This is good meta. This is just a really good spot for the game. And I guess this is about the time where we're going to segue from, this is a good meta, to the big news, which is no changes in the balance patch. And I guess I wanted to explore a bunch of different stuff with the balance patch, if I could, which is, on the one hand, if they're ever going to do this, right? This is the right time to do it when your metagame is good and things are there's nothing pressing. I think maybe Annihilus could get toned down or Cannonball could get toned down, but nothing I'm just like, oh man, this has to happen, And I think it's probably good that they don't feel the pressure to do changes for the sake of changes, even though I think they probably established a little bit of a precedent that they will do changes for the sake of changes. I guess one of the things that I'm seeing is I saw a lot of people in the creator channels were upset about this. And as someone my personal perspective is I don't really care, right? That doesn't really do anything for me. I care about the patches as far as balance goes. They did a balance patch 5 days ago. I don't really care that this balance patch doesn't have anything in it because the metagame is good right now. If the metagame was bad, I'd be mad as hell, right? I'd be mad as hell, but we have a really three-pronged metagame. There's Loki decks that are good into the Cannonball Profex decks, the Annihilus decks. Those decks are good into the combo decks, which are good into the Loki decks. And there's so much exploration to be done in the Cannonball Annihilus Profex space that it's there's kind of just a lot of stuff to try to figure out right now. It's very open. You can do a lot of stuff. And if you have an idea of what you're targeting in this metagame, a lot of stuff you can get away with. Now, I do think the release of Valentina might make that suck super bad. Because if we get 30% Loki play rate, everything's going to be annoying as hell again. But at least right now, I'm yeah, totally. Don't do a patch. I'm with it. Because here's the other thing about it. Their balance patches and the patches always suck ass. They're 4 weeks behind. How are they not going to suck ass? Right? They always suck ass. So if you give me the choice between a patch that sucks ass and not fucking up a good metagame, sure, I'm fine with it. But I've been a little bit surprised at how mad everyone is. People are mad. And
that's interesting.
I don't really get it, but I'm interested to see what the prevailing outcome is overall. Because I think I've gotten 2 different outcomes from people I talk to. Most of the people I talk to, their reaction to, no patch is like, yeah, sure, meta's good, whatever, right? Like that's the prevailing reaction I would say among like the group of like top Infinite players that I mostly talk to was just like a combination shrug and like thumbs medium. It's like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. And then in terms of like just various creators that I saw, like people on Twitter, people on Discord, very angry in a way I did not expect.
It's interesting because I've actually started to, I've talked about this a lot on the pod, disassociate from social media and just being online more and more. Because I just found that people, it seems, not that there's no validity to it, but it seems their default state is more negative and angry than it is positive and happy online. And what's interesting is because Marvel Snap is only an online game and online community, you don't really get that palate cleanser of meeting people in person. So what happens a lot with a game like Flesh and Blood, or you can even say Lorana, is like the online Twitter communities can be toxic, particularly for Flesh and Blood, but I'm sure Lorana will get there in 1 to 2 years, just as people get jaded. But every single time I meet them in person, like I go to an in-person event or I go to a local event, it's like those people are not there. Like that is just not how they actually interact. And like the general community is actually very level-headed and very positive. But these online communities kind of just like feed each other, and they're just generally very negative. And I don't know. It was interesting because after a period of time, I noticed it actually really hurt my ability to enjoy like Flesh and Blood, the game. Like I had been so disenfranchised by like the people that I'd surrounded myself with online, not in person. Again, like at the Pro Tours, it was very nice. I was like, oh, it's actually taking away from the game experience. And my response to that was like, I just literally unfollowed every single person that's anything to do with Flesh and Blood. Like unless they're a very good personal friend, and even then, like even personal friends, is like, I just don't want to see the fab stuff because I don't want to be a part of it. And it's like, it's to the extent where it made me not enjoy the game as much. I was like, that's not fair to Flesh and Blood. Like that's not fair to the game. Like I can't.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have an obligation to be fair to Flesh and Blood, but
I feel like I do. I think it's because I think it's a great game. I don't think it's fair to dog the game because like, at least for me, like because I've been doing Flesh and Blood stuff for like 3 years, I think I have like a responsibility to try to be objective about the like the game systems and the organized play and like all that stuff. So I think when I'm default negative, it's just not very conducive to like towards a good conversation.
From the outside here, I had thought that you were a little jaded towards the game.
Yeah. No,
just from the outside,
I'm the first person to say. I think that that word is on the tip of everybody's tongues that might listen, because I describe myself like that. And I try to caveat my opinions by saying I believe that it's possible that I am jaded, and that is an unfair bias I have. So like take my subjective opinion and try to weed through the biases to find a more objective truth, because I know that I cannot give that to you. Like I am a human being, and like, yes, at 3 years in, 4 years in, the good old days, the glory days have passed. Yeah, you're a little bit jaded. It happens.
Yeah. The grass is greener on Lorana. You're farming Stitch playmats. You're like going to FNMs and winning $1,500. It's the dream, right?
They're not FNMs. What Cam's alluding to is there's like these like basically the set championships for Lorana this past 2 weeks, and I played a lot of events and I did okay at them. Which was funny. I actually got sick again because like I don't know if this is the podcast where we make fun of me for being sick when I say that I'm never sick, but
he's never sick.
Never sick. But I got sick. I got better, and then I started getting sick again. I got on antibiotics, and then I did these like 12-hour tournaments back to back to back. And then last night I got back from my last one. I won. I got my place out. I won four in a row, and then I get back and I ate something out of the fridge that was maybe a little bit too old, and I got food poisoning on top of that. It was like this no cheese cheesecake, which probably sounds like the most disgusting thing you've ever heard in your life.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's not. It's great. It's great. It's just like, it's like a cheesecake derivative. It's like cashew based. Anyway.
Sure.
My girlfriend bought it for herself a while ago. I saw it in the fridge and I was like.
And you just like, you requisitioned it.
I was like, victory.
You have let this go past the expiration date, and I am the garbage disposal.
Yes. Well, I did that. And yeah, I had food poisoning last night. It wasn't too bad. It was only like, 15 times. But I woke up to today and I felt like death, dude. I was like, holy shit. I thought I was going to feel okay, but yeah, no. So I'm sick again, but hopefully the antibiotics kick in and I start getting better. But my girlfriend was telling me, she was like, maybe you should like take it a little easy. And I was like, take it a little easy. It's like, look at these Stitch playmats. You see, look at these Disney characters I farmed. Somebody in this house has got to work for a living.
You're definitely going to actually sell them and not just throw them in a closet. You're definitely going to realize the value of those Stitch playmats, right? You're definitely not just going to chuck them in a closet and forget about them forever.
Value, baby. Anyway, back to the original. Yeah, the online communities. I think they go default negative and default angry. I don't think that's a good reason to not be a part of it at all. But I think it's important to, I don't know, at least realize that and internalize that and use that as a way to filter out what you potentially see online. Because I've experienced the same things, but the difference is with other games, like you have this palate cleanser of actually meeting real people. And you're like, wow, everybody's so nice and so positive. You're like, what the fuck is going on online?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even necessarily think it's like default negative per se. I just think it's like, I don't really know the right way to phrase it. It does sort of feel like the expectations people have for this game are not the expectations that exist in reality, where it's like people expect it to do things like monetize entirely off cosmetics, but then also have the cosmetics be cheaper. People expect it to do things like introduce new modes while also introducing more cards. People expect it to do these things on timelines that seem unrealistic. And like there's this thing that I see a lot, which is like Second Dinner is more focused on making money than they are on making the game good. And I think this comes from like a sort of perception of lack of features, lack of things to do, lack of like new modes and all that. But one of the things that really sticks with me is like when I think about how I interacted with Conquest, a new mode that took a ton of time to develop, presumably. I don't really know how much time it takes to develop that. I'm sure someone can get on and be like, actually, they did absolutely nothing. It was very easy for them to do. I'm sure that isn't true. But I played it for 2 months and then put it down.
Yep.
And it's like, we are very clearly aware that they can't do a new mode every 2 months, right? And if that is the, like, sort of, you know, pattern that a new mode will have, which is, woo, everyone check this out. Oh, it's actually just worse than ladder, right? Like, what is the rate of return on that? Where it's like, how can we be look them in the face and be like, actually, we need more content if we all just realize ladder's a better experience 2 months out anyway?
Yeah.
Like, and so part of me is then I start wondering, like, what do you define as content? What is content? What if they released twice as many cards for half the price? Would that solve boredom?
No.
You know what I mean?
It would not. It would not, for sure. But I think with Conquest, if I was going to push back on that at all, is like, I do think that, yes, if that was the cycle, right, and they create a new mode, they put in all this work, and then it gets picked up for 2 months and maybe put down. I'd say 2 months is generous, too. Some people probably picked it up for a day and put it down.
Generous, yeah.
Yeah, put it down. I think the one thing that Marvel Snap has really sort of flubbed is the end game loop in terms of like encouraging players to engage with some of the systems, in particular Conquest. They do have the things like the rewards, but after that, there's really not much of a reason to go back there in terms of like a dopaminergic reason. Like,
wait, can you define end game loop here?
Yeah,
I'm having trouble.
I can try. It's really tough, but for instance, with Conquest, why should you play Conquest? Like, what do you gain as a player? There's the cosmetics, like those are the reach and the infinity avatars. But the problem is like, it's not this like sort of end game, like endless loop. It is very finite, in my opinion. Like the rewards are very finite. You get the rewards and then you're done. And then I think when it comes to infinity avatars as well, they're also very finite. Technically, you can keep farming them, but most players feel the need to only get a few or maybe one, and then they feel like they've accomplished that goal. And I think Conquest would be, I don't know if it'd be a lot better, but I'd probably engage with it more if there were more rewards that I felt like were worth chasing, which is a whole nother can of worms, like what is and what is not. But I do feel like in Conquest, they didn't necessarily I don't think they got the sort of the loop there correct to keep people coming back.
Well, I think the flip side of that is I don't want to be forced to play this mode if I don't like it, right? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm throwing away value. Right now, it's calibrated perfectly for me to be like, you know what? I don't really give a shit. I'm not going to get the Conquest stuff this month. That's fine, right? Because I just don't enjoy doing it, right? And I think that there is that flip side. Here's my pitch for endgame loop. I've been thinking about this a lot. Ladder rewards, but they're not based on rank. Or where you hit. They're based on an algorithm that looks at your entrance rank and gives you a target based on that.
Improvement.
It looks at where you entered and how much you play and says, here is your target. Go hit it. Instead of giving people like, instead of making it seem like it's so far away, like giving like, top 1,000 stuff or whatever, right? Make it attainable, make it personalized. Because one of the things that Marvel Snap does is everything is very personalized. Your collection is unique, right? Like
your ranked
experience is unique. Why can't your ranked rewards be unique?
I think that they could. I don't know how hard that system would be to implement. But I think it's much more congruent with their philosophy as a developer than doing something like top 1,000 rewards. Because don't get me wrong. I do think top 1,000 rewards would be nice. That'd be pretty cool. But
yeah, I mean, I like free stuff.
Yeah. Well, I also I like some form of aspirational content. Like I like something to really go for outside of, my name is on the leaderboard in this rank. Because for me, that reward system has a lot of diminishing returns. Like if I'm ranked 597 or I'm ranked 430, I might push for 420, but outside of that, it just doesn't really matter. It just doesn't really matter.
Due to inflation, the new funny number is not 420, it's 434. So there you go.
What is this?
Due to inflation, you got to calculate for inflation.
I could get behind that.
I stole that from a tweet. I'm sorry. I stole that from a tweet from the Dropout producer. Shout out to Dropout.
Well, speaking of that, we'll get back to the algorithmic rank rewards. I want to talk about tyranny for a sec. So
I want to talk about what?
Tyranny.
Like
yes,
Stalin.
Yeah. Oh, close but different. So
okay,
I live in an apartment complex. And there are rules. Like there's a lot of rules when you live in a complex or like any. I'm sure like an HOA is the same thing. There's a lot of rules that exist that you might not be aware of. That exist to stop egregious things from happening. So one thing that happened to me the other day is my dog went out. I have a yard. My dog went outside.
Look at this guy.
Went
got
to
a yard.
Hey, I'm going. I'm big.
Near a small village outside Paris.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Paris, Texas. Anyway, I went to take a shower. My dogs. The yard is there for the dog, so I can let them out. Dog goes outside. The dog relieves itself. And in that time, me taking my shower, 5-10 minutes maybe, I go pick it up after. I eventually I get an additional balance on my rent. For
someone saw you not pick it up, didn't they?
Not pick it up. Yeah. Violation just added. They went and took a fucking picture during that 10 minutes.
Your ass, dude.
Why?
I gotta tell you, you're gonna be mad about this. I live in an apartment complex. We have a dog park.
Yep. Oh, it's not a dog park. This is my yard.
Nobody. 0 people clean up their dog's crap in that dog park.
That's immoral.
I would take instant fines over this any day of the week.
Would not. So my point is the rule exists to stop egregious things from happening. It's to stop someone from having a yard that displays publicly for the apartment complex and have it be full of dog shit, right? That would be bad. That would be bad for property. It does not exist for you to have a gotcha to fuck your tenants over and then because the thing is like it's obvious it's obviously a massive perversion, right? Because if you own the complex, what you want is for it to be presentable. You want your tenants to be happy-ish, but you don't actually want to get them on a technicality, fuck them over, piss them off forever, right? Because they will probably be angry forever about that, and have them potentially write you a bad review, right? You want the outliers to not exist, but that rule, in my opinion, does not exist so you can get somebody on a fucking technicality while they take a shower.
Sure. It doesn't exist for that, but you are the outlier that got hit by it. Like, just suck it up. That's my take. Like, look, I'm sorry. Actually, this would sort of depend on how much the fine was. If we're talking like two digits, suck it up. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, dude, you have not lived somewhere that does not have these rules. You have not lived somewhere that does not have these rules. It sucks. There is a dog park that I wish that I use. It is full of dog crap all the time. It is awful.
I do agree that's bad. I do agree that's bad.
If it takes someone wrongfully getting fined because they only waited 10 minutes to clean up their dog's crap, I'm sure that is an outlier and it is acceptable. This is an acceptable casualty.
You cannot sacrifice me for your utilitarian fucking...
I can and I will.
I just couldn't believe it. I was like, because this person maybe technically is doing a job, but I'm like, even though this is technically a part of the rules, I don't think that's actually your job. I don't think it's your job to actually fuck me over. And it's just
low rolled. I'm sorry you low rolled. It sucks.
Hey, there's everyday tyranny, inflation, everyday tyranny. I just couldn't believe it. And you know what else is funny? It just gets fucking added to the balance. It just gets added. That's crazy to me. How the fuck does it just
they didn't even like leave some shit on your door.
Oh no, they did. But you cannot dispute it. It is simply added to the balance. Like my balance is simply $50 more on the rent. There's no recourse. There's no court of law.
You don't have like a I don't know, apartment manager. You can be like, hey, I literally cleaned this up 10 minutes after I was in the shower. Can you get this fine off?
So I did that. And they said, this is not your first offense. It's like, it's my first fine. And they're like, they're alluding to something else.
Ask them to show you the pictures of your other offenses. If they have them, I feel like you just got owned.
No,
I'm not going to lie to you, man. I feel like, how often do you do this?
No, it's pretty rare. I
define
think,
rare.
Well, I mean, maybe. So
I'm digging in.
I don't think a single person in the apartment complex knows that rule exists. I mean, it exists so you don't leave it out there forever. Has there been feces that has sat on that lawn for more than non-zero amount of seconds since it left the orifice? Yes, I am guilty of that, sir. I'm guilty.
Okay,
but
we're approaching your "you can't handle the truth" moment. I think.
But I've maintained my civil duty of picking it up in a reasonable amount of time, and hear me. That rule does not exist for this reason. This has been taken out of context.
So it's been taken out of context that you left some dog crap on the lawn and it was not your first offense.
Well, I think they're alluding to something else. Like they were like, so I don't know. I think that they had it out for me at that time. You know, they had it out for me. My whole argument, and hear me out. You know, sit down. Sit down, calm down, and hear me out. My whole argument is that I agree. I understand the rule. I would put it in a contract as well if I owned an apartment complex, which I don't, by the way, because I wouldn't want people to leave their poop out. But I would not go around taking pictures in the early morning trying to get people on technicalities to piss them off. Because I think that is a misuse. Do you think that's
actually what happened?
No, I think that they were just doing rounds, and
I think they were just there.
I think they got me on. I think they got me on technicality.
But it's like, how did they know? How did they know you were going to clean that up in 10 minutes?
Well, I think they should have seen the one instance that existed on the lawn. They should have been reasonable about it.
But they said that this wasn't your first offense, right? So, like, if you're a guy who has done this before, they've come by at that time.
I think they were talking about other offenses.
And you're
I think they were talking about other offenses. I think
look, all I'm saying is clean up your fucking dog crap, okay?
Bro, what? That's the fucking problem. I do do that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It does suck when it's like you let something slip one time and that's the one time you get caught. It sucks so bad.
Yeah, my whole argument is like that rule exists so that they can stop the outliers. They can stop the people that do things ridiculous and actually devalue the property. It doesn't actually exist so that there can't be one turd on the lawn for fucking 1 hour, right? Like that's ridiculous.
Well, was it 1 hour or 10 minutes?
Fucking, I don't know. I'm trying to give me a room to work with, you know? I think both are okay, actually. I think a turd can sit out there for at least 90 minutes.
Whoa, now it's 90 minutes. We're really expanding the time frame here.
Anyway.
No, I'm with you. Like, it is there to prevent repetitive behavior.
Yeah. And egregious behavior. So, yeah.
My experiences are just colored by having a dog park covered with crap.
Well, why don't you do your civic duty and go pick it up for your fellow man?
How is it my civic duty to go pick it up for my fellow man?
I don't know. You gotta.
I think it's my civic duty to start assessing fines. I think I'm gonna go to my apartment complex and be like, "Hey, we need to start finding people for this."
I have entire folders of photographs and.
Yeah, I'm about to start like I'm gonna put a camera out there.
You got a ring doorbell.
I'm gonna hire a security guard. just stand there and be like, "I swear to God, if any of you leave your dog crap here, I am assessing you $50 fines extrajudicially.
Well, the TLDR is I'm $50 poorer, and I feel targeted. I feel
What
mistreated.
percentage of a Stitch playmat is that?
What percentage of a playmat? The thing is, okay, again, we'll get back to Marvel Snap. But the crazy thing about so the thing about playmats is that in a new game, people don't realize they're garbage yet. Because playmats are garbage, and I hate to break this to you if you love playmats.
Well, you're about to depress the market.
Yeah, I'm about to depress the market.
You ruined your resale value. Yeah. You
they
goddamn
are
moron.
Garbage. And they because more get put into the market, really only a person only needs one. They're also not inherently collectible. There's no integrity to the collectability. You should not be buying playmats to try to sell them. They can sell for money, but they're not collectible. So people don't know that yet. So these are selling for $300 a pop, which is crazy.
That's a lot of fines. That's a lot. You can leave a lot of dog crap on your lawn.
Yo, if they keep taking pictures, I'm gonna go take that turd next time. Fuck them. Back to Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap. All right. New card released. White Widow, 2/2 on reveal. Add a Widow's Kiss to your opponent's side of this location. Forgot what the Widow kissed. I never pulled up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I don't have it pulled up right now.
It's an ongoing, has -4 power, but if the lane is full, it does not have -4 power.
Yeah, I just want to get it correct. This was a card that I don't know. We were definitely
pretty high on it.
We were high on it. As high as you can.
I think we were too high.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to calibrate, because I don't think it landed exactly where.
I mean, it landed as this is a really good card, but it's not like. I'm happy, right? Because like my fear with this card was it would just make stuff so miserable, and so far it hasn't made anything miserable. So far, it's at like a 30% play rate ish, and it's positive win rate and positive cubes, but not by like a massive amount. Like right now in Untapped top 10%, it's 51.9% win rate, 29.1% popularity. And 0.08 cube rate. And it's like, you know what? That's a good card, but it's not a miserable one. And I'm glad. I'm really, really glad, because I don't know if y'all remember the original version of this card that was in the data mines, but it was something like heinous, where it was like the thing didn't turn off. So it was just like every card here got like -1. So it was just like a flat -4 or something like that. It was like a 0 -1 with an ongoing ability that says every card here gets -1 or something just disgusting like that. Maybe it was a 1 cost. I don't even remember. But what they did to it was take it from like the world's most annoying and ridiculous card to a pretty good one. And I think they ended up in the right spot on this card, honestly, because like this is a card I was very afraid of. I was like, this is so unfun if it ends up getting as high as it could hit. And not only is it not all that unfun, I kind of like playing around it.
Interesting.
It's like they put the white, and it's like, oh, that's kind of a fun little dynamic I can play around with, right? Like that 4 points, nullifying that feels good. I was surprised at how not terrible it is to play around this card.
Interesting. And I'm surprised, because I took a week off to grind Disney playmats that were $300. So, and also
not after this podcast. You're about to cut their value in half.
I'm liquidating before this comes out. All right, let's talk about the OTA changes. First off, we have Red Hulk was a 6.
I was about to say, like, what do you mean? What changes? We're a week behind. That's crazy. No changes.
I know.
Look at this.
Upcoming no changes. These OTAs we haven't talked about, though, the April 25th ones. So we gotta get the cam takes here.
It's a good thing Red Hulk got nerfed, but I don't think it necessarily needed it. I saw a bunch of like really hyperbolic takes that were like, they killed it. They did it again. They have nerfed a good card. They made this good card into a bad card. How could they do such a thing? It's a terrible card now. And it's like, what are you talking about? This is still a totally fine card. Like, Red Hulk is very fine. Infinite top 10% stats again. 51.7% win rate, 27.2% popularity, and a 0.10 cube rate. So better stats than White Widow after being nerfed? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, everyone is like, I saw people losing their minds about this. And it's like, I have people who've watched my YouTube channel may be familiar with the rant I'm about to go on.
Okay.
So, bear with me. In the 4 months before December, they released 7 cards that needed to be nerfed within, let's say, 5 weeks of release. Miss Marvel, Loki, Eliath, Elsa Bloodstone, Werewolf by Night, Mobius M. Mobius, and Blob. Lot of cards, lot of whiffs, right? And if you go through all of those changes, every single one of those changes was a bigger nerf than what they did to Red Hulk. All of them. Every single one of them were more impactful changes. Every one. In the last 4 months since the Blob nerf, Red Hulk is the only new card they have had to change within that amount of time from its release. And they had to change it by a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that Red Hulk is somehow the continuation of that previous pattern rather than a repudiation of it is ridiculous to me. It is patently on its face ridiculous. I don't know how you can look at Red Hulk and group it in with all that other shit. You cannot do it. It is fulfilling the same role. It is still an extremely good card. There is nothing coming out that's power creeping it. It's just going to keep doing what it does. It's still got a positive win rate. It's still got a positive cube rate. It's still in 30% of decks. So what are we mad about here? Like, what are we doing? I personally do not get it. It feels like people I honestly sometimes wonder how much damage that 4-month run did to Marvel Snap's player base, because I think that like it left a permanent scar on the way people interpret everything right now, because you're looking at that 4-month stretch and it, like, honestly, in retrospect, it looks worse than it felt, and it felt pretty bad. And so you look back on it and you're just like, wow, they released like 20 cards and 7 of them were the most busted pieces of shit you've ever seen. And it's like, that is not good.
Hot Take has actually enjoyed that. But that's coming from someone who had a lot of disposable tokens.
Yeah, you had all those cards. Of course you thought it was cool,
yeah,
right?
It was sick. The meta was moving all the time. I mean, Loki was definitely a bit sticky, but I mean, outside of that, I thought it was great. The Mobius change was pretty crazy. But they were
like when you think about all those cards, like, it's crazy how off they were. Most of them were off by like a full energy cost.
Oh yeah.
Like, Red Hulk is off by 2 points of power on a card that is usually like 17 or 21. So like that is a much smaller amount of off there.
My favorite part about those cards is that they were. What can you think of one that wasn't like pretty clear that it was off? Because I feel like
I was off on Loki and Blob. Okay, those are the ones I got wrong, I think.
Interesting. I can't remember our collective analysis on Blob. I know it's definitely on Loki. I just can't remember on Blob. Everything else, it was like we looked at it, we're like, okay, this is clearly busted. Maybe we missed on Blob. That could be it. Yeah, I feel like
I missed on Blob the same. I miss on every big card.
Yeah,
I miss on every I win a lane card. I miss on all of them.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of those cards were like just clearly above rate and clearly busted. In these OTAs, anything else relevant to you between US Agent, Jean Grey, Stature, Mantis, and Jane Foster?
US Agent's a good card.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Grey's an okay card.
Yeah.
Jane Foster did not need to get buffed, but just did. It feels like one of those buffs they did that were like just to draw your attention to it.
I like this.
It's like, hey, I like this. Like, hey, guys, this is like a good thing to be doing. Like, just we can give her this point and not feel too bad about it. Start paying attention here. Yeah. And yeah, the Jane Foster deck is pretty good.
Yeah. So just to go over that, the US Agent change was still 2-3, but now it's gives stuff -4 power. It does 4, 5, and 6 costs. And Jean Grey just got an additional power. So yeah, I kind of like those like 5th and 6th cards they add into OTAs, which is like a little power buff and card you kind of maybe forgot about. I think it's cool.
I was going through a list of just like cards that can get buffed, because I was kind of thinking about doing a video on like this whole overarching topic, which is like, okay, balance has gotten a lot better. They're not fucking up as much, right? But at the same time, they are releasing, when I say they're not fucking up as much, they're not fucking up as much high, and they're not fucking up as much low. And that means they're releasing a lot more good cards. Like, there's just like been a consistent run of like, this is a B+ or higher card. Just boom, 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 boom. They keep hitting. And that's not normal. It used to be they'd have like one obvious design mistake a month and then 3 cards that sucked. and so now you're in a spot where it's like, okay, is the economy built for hit? And one of the things I've been thinking about is like, no, it probably isn't. It's built for pick and choose, right? But when everything is a hit and so many good decks in Marvel Snap are just running all the good cards and all the hits, you end up in a situation where it's like, oh, I can't play this because I didn't get Cannonball or Pixie or whatever, right? And that means that the way to counteract that, to me, is buff old cards. Make old cards good and competitive, right? That's how I would approach that. That'd be my pitch. Mm-hmm. And so I collected a list on stream because I was thinking about like maybe making this a video. I still might, I'm not sure. I got to tell you, there's less than I thought. I was like, there's probably like 100 cards we could buff. And then you look at them and you're like, you know what? A lot of these should stay bad. I do not think we should buff, Baron Mordo. I think that probably should still be a bad card. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I don't think that needs to happen. I do not think we should buff like Black Widow again. We did that. It sucked. Everyone hated that. Let's not do it again, right? But outside of that, there are like probably, I would say, 10 cards that legitimately easily could get buffed. And I think if I had one objection to the lack of a patch here, it's that it doesn't have that stuff in it.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny that it was so much less than you thought. There was probably 100. There was much less. Yeah, it's super interesting. You as a player, which do you prefer? The hit by miss by a lot over, and then a lot of misses under, or do you like this kind of consistent B+ card rollout?
I think
you can say selfishly
it's impossible
too.
No, it's impossible to extricate that from the economy, right? Because like, yeah, obviously I like when all the cards I buy are good. That's dope, right? But like that is what I worry about there is sustainability, where I just don't think it's sustainable that when you look at the last 2 months of cards, a lot of the best decks in the game are using those cards. Like, I just don't think it's sustainable. We'll go back to probably Cull Obsidian. And every card they've released except for War Machine has been meta relevant, basically. That's tough. That's tough, right? Like, and it's not like they've been meta relevant in a vacuum that's creating their own archetypes. They've been meta relevant in a good cards deck, often multiples at a time, and often in concert with other expensive cards.
Yeah. So like coming back to the game, especially for someone who was maybe close to series complete before, it is a daunting experience to be like, okay, what sort of top deck can I play? Unless it's archetype based. It's a lot of new cards. It's interesting. The whole catch up mechanic, I hope that they implement some more systems for that. Because that, I mean, theoretically, as you progress forward in time, as more cards are released, it will only get worse. So there is some critical maximum where you are just kind of too far behind, and they will need to actually implement some artificial mechanic to help you catch up. I wonder when that will happen, because it already feels like it's too much, but that's a very personal thing. And I like we talked about on this podcast, I know players that were extremely competitive beforehand that have wanted to come back, but they're just like, I don't have the money / time. I think that's sad.
Yeah. And it's like every new card releases at Series 5. They're all good. You need multiple.
Yeah.
And it's like that feels like the system wasn't built for that. It feels like the system was built to pick and choose. And because their balance has been getting so much better, it's like, what the hell are we supposed to pick? How we can't pick and choose anymore. Like, it's like 2 or 3. You need like 2 or 3. These cards keep being good. And so the way to combat that is you have to make older cards better. You have to do it. And I think that, like, not only is there an extra card each month, it's an extra card you actually want most of the time. Like, and to be clear, a lot of that is just, the card people are doing their jobs better, right? Like, their job is to make good, exciting, interesting cards, and they are doing that. but I just don't think that the like overarching effects of that on the economy and on the player experience have been fully comprehended, right? Because it's like, it doesn't matter how many knockout of the park cards you have if people can't buy them.
Yeah, my theory is that the equilibrium point actually doesn't exist. That the better card design is, it's actually, I mean, assuming all is equal to the economy, it will always be inversely related to sort of the pain via the economy. Because the more cards I want to buy and the more interesting the cards are, you know, the more I have to engage with the economy. Where maybe beforehand, when the design was worse, it was easier to get around that. There was something you mentioned earlier. You talked about the metagame. You talked about these like these 3 different decks or these 3 different archetypes in the metagame and how it's really interesting. I just want to ask you a question in regards to rock, paper, scissors metagames. Because when you talk about card games, a lot of people mention rock, paper, scissors as this idealistic form of a metagame for card games. And the idea is, as if you've ever played this game, rock, paper, scissors, where you know, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and paper beats rock. My question:
I've never played rock, paper, scissors. How does it work?
There's no way you have. There's no way. My question to you is what is the, like, for you personally, what kind of margins do you like to see on a rock, paper, scissors metagame? Because if you took the literal sense of the analogy, which is rock, paper, scissors, it would be dog shit. It would be dog shit if you brought your deck up, you brought rock, you've matched into paper, and now you lose to no volition of your own. You lose to pure matchup variance. So in your opinion, what are sort of
60-ish?
So 60-40s on like on the high end, right? Like, so on the bigger differential.
Yeah,
60-40s?
I don't want them to ever get bigger than that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because people always like herald this idea of a rock, paper, scissors metagame, but they never really get into the weeds of because I think it's really important. Like, that granularity is actually what makes the game good or actually fucking terrible between the 3 decks.
I mean, I think the other thing is, like, it's very dependent on, is it enjoyable, right? There is a degree of just like, is there a deck I like playing? Am I having fun even in the bad matchups, right? Like, obviously that's limited in utility because most people, let's be real, are not having fun unless they're winning. But that is, you know, there is like some degree of just like, oh, am I having fun? Am I enjoying this? Is this a fun metagame to me? Right? Does it feel like my decisions matter? Can I try to like skill out this unfavored matchup?
Yeah,
maybe.
Does it feel like my decisions matter? What a funny paradigm to need to cater to as a card game designer. Because, you know, as one great man,
because they don't actually have to matter. And they also feel like they do.
Yeah, they also kind of don't exist, and everybody's an agency simp. What a funny thing to have to cater to, for people to be in a losing match, to lose a game, and to feel like, I had relevant decisions there. I think it's like deviation from the perfect game. And to be able to perceive those deviations as the losing player. But it's like, it's such a weird thing to cater to, because a lot of it is like, it is facilitated through ignorance, but you have to both be ignorant enough to not play the correct game, but also be aware enough to realize that you didn't post-mortem after the game. How do you create a game experience that facilitates that to happen? Because that, like, other than that, because if people lose and they don't know why they lost, they feel bad. But if they lose, it's just it's a weird dynamic. It's really funny to me. Agency simps, as they would say. All right, Ben and Snap. We got a short Ben and Snap this week because we asked you all a question. We actually put out a contest for a quote to go back on the back of the T-shirt, and the number 1 would win. So we have that one here, and that comes from Boss Enjoyer. And Cam, I'm sorry, but I did kind of make an executive decision, so I guess I'll feel out if you like it now. I didn't run it by you, so I guess I'm running it by you live. But this is what Boss Enjoyer said. It's simple, but I would suggest my favorite Marvel Snap, maybe in quotations, podcast for your shirt. The kind of anti-humor that makes me laugh. It also makes sense for people who are not in on the joke.
That is actually very funny.
It's just perfect. It's just perfect.
I think that's super funny, but like, what we should do is like my favorite Marvel Snap podcast, but like my favorite blank podcast, but Marvel Snap is the last one.
Marvel Snap. So this is saying it's all, like, that's all it says. It says my favorite, and then starting quotate. I mean, I'm assuming that's what the quotation would be. Marvel Snap podcast.
Now, see, I was thinking it'd be like my favorite list of all the other things, and then at the bottom it says Marvel Snap.
Yeah, I think I like the just.
I like what they're going for.
Yeah.
I think it's like it runs the risk of reading as like too jerking ourselves off. I don't want it to read. I don't want it to read
quotations. It's like my favorite.
But like I get that. But like not to be like everyone's an idiot or anything like that. But that does strike me as a little too subtle.
I like it. I like it. I like it because I think you could actually put a T-shirt that said "My favorite Marvel Snap."
When you say you made an executive decision, did you do this?
No. I made an executive decision by putting it in the Ben and Snap section.
Okay.
Because it was also the most upvoted comment, so people did like it as well.
Sure, yeah.
But I liked it. I thought it was funny how it was kind of like right under my nose all the time. I never considered it. But we had a lot of other submissions, so I'm going to start reading them out. You ready? This is my favorite two guys talking while my kid naps podcast. Not a lot of upvotes. It's my favorite 69th ranked podcast. My favorite Cozy Snap podcast. Discussion podcast. My favorite Sweaty Turbo Nerd podcast. My favorite Cam Best Ask Glenn to Hire Him podcast. My favorite Deodorant Free.
Hey, hire me, Glenn.
My favorite Deodorant Free podcast. My favorite 3X Value
that
podcast.
That is horseshit. We are both deodoranted up.
Yeah, we sweat through that.
We just
shit,
sweat
baby.
anyway.
Yeah. It's true. My favorite Dune Lore podcast. My favorite Nostalgia Game Store podcast. My favorite Self-Aware podcast. My favorite Tuesday podcast. Shit, this one's
got your ass.
Got us. This one's going up on Tuesday,
ass, dude.
My favorite Jim Bros podcast.
Sure.
It's my favorite podcast. My favorite delayed podcast. Yeah, people really. My favorite tangent podcast. Yeah, and they go on. And
I got
on
a message from Brendan at like, I don't know, like 7:30 on the day we normally record. Like, hey man, can you do tomorrow?
I was dying, bro. So I went to the tournament at noon, and holy fuck. It Swiss ends and they're like, yeah, we're gonna do a 1 hour break for top 8. It's 7 p.m. I'm like, what? So yeah, I didn't get home till super late.
So yeah, it's like 7:30. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm cool with that. I don't really mind. Like Brendan stresses the podcast metrics. I just yap.
Well, I've also across this podcast and some other ones, like I've actually never missed a week ever. And you can imagine, like I've been sick before. I've traveled. Shit has come up.
I thought you were never sick.
No, I'm also never sick. That's a fact.
Before.
I've never actually been sick, but sometimes I might have a little bit of a sniffle. Never missed a single podcast. But sometimes they do come out a few hours later. Sometimes. That's about as bad as it gets. You guys get a Tuesday release. So we'll survive.
Yeah.
We'll survive. Anyway, you got to get your question read out because we do questions. The Bend and Snap is a question section. We need questions for next week because that's our favorite part of doing the podcast. And we didn't get them this week because we asked for t-shirt submissions. So
how many, just ballpark, how many comments we had and then what percentage were t-shirt submissions?
All right, let me look at this. So number of comments, 143. I would say over 90% were t-shirt submissions. Well, the thing is, you're like, how many are t-shirt submissions? Let me tell you, Cam. If I go to last week's podcast, do you want to know how many could be classified as t-shirt submissions? Because they're also my favorite podcast bits. Probably fucking 80%, bro.
So we really didn't spike it that hard, right? There was only there was limited upside. There was limited room to grow there.
People did the same shit anyway. Which we love. It's hilarious. But shoot us some questions for next week on YouTube, and we'll get them queued up. Anyway, Cam, we talked about Marvel Snap more than I think we hit our quota for May already.
Okay, so what is it you want to talk about now that we talked about Marvel Snap?
Nothing. I talked about. I did my thing. I did my thing.
That felt like a segue. Into like another 15 minutes on
we talked about the
poop citations.
No, we talked about the plight of the modern man. We talked about tyranny.
The tyranny, the small tyrannies of the world.
Tyrannies, yeah. They stack up.
Much like dog poop on your lawn.
Oh, my goodness. I'm a responsible tenant. I don't know. I think they made a mistake.
I've created my headcanon about this already. Like you can't convince me that you aren't doing this every day at this point. Like I have created my headcanon. This is my favorite guy who leaves dog poop on the lawn podcast.
That's not me, so I don't know how that would be relevant. I think the only thing that really irritated me about it was not the $50. It was not the technicality. It was that I believe all said and done, that it was a poor strategic decision. Because I think that, first of all, they took a rule that was not designed to do that, and they did that with it. I don't think they actually care about the money, and they made an enemy for life out of me. For life.
Yeah.
And my
out
dog.
Out of presumably like 100 people in our comments, right, who are just gonna like absolutely take your side on this. Like how
you mean that people are predisposed to take my side on a podcast? No way.
Yeah, I do. I do mean that. That's exactly what I mean. We exist in a medium wherein we only tell our sides of stories.
You mean we're not going to get an unbiased discussion on why it was a fair ruling for them?
I did my best to push back on your very obviously flawed layout of the situation.
I feel betrayed. Honestly, I was surprised. Et tu, Brute.
It just seemed like the funniest thing to do with it. Like this is the thing I actually do, where like I'll be like live or doing a podcast or whatever, and just like like I don't necessarily agree with 100% of the things I say.
Oh my god!
But they seem like the funniest thing to do.
I do that all the fucking time.
So it sucks because like someone will be like, "Hey, remember when you did this?" It's just like, man, I was kind of just doing a bit.
Like, at least nobody's done that to you in person, bro. I've had so many people come with me and flush them out. They're like, "So you think Bolton fucking sucks, eh?" And I'm like, "Not really." They're like, "What?" Dude, I'm not even kidding. That happens. They're like, "So you think my hero fucking sucks, huh, bud?" And I'm like, "Holy shit."
Yeah, what? I fucking do. Get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
You gotta double down.
No, they're like, "I want to issue you a challenge." I'm like, "Bro, I'm fucking casting."
What is Bolton? Is that like the mono red?
No,
Flesh and Blood.
No. So it's a warrior. I mean, warriors they're definitely more. They're more typical decks. They have a more typical sort of game plan. And like the reason why I preface with that is like, yeah, maybe I have a predisposition to not like decks that play within the rules, fair decks. But Bolton in particular was this hero that came out, and its hero ability was like card disadvantage. Like you would have to.
Oh, it sounds like ass. Yeah, okay.
You'd have to like discard a card to like do fucking anything. It was so dog shit. But it had this card printed called Lumina Ascension, and if you drew 2 Lumina Ascensions together, you could slap them on the board and auto win the game. And it was like a combo deck. So it's kind of like a.
Why did you put that in quotes?
Because that's not combo. Draw my fucking cards at the same time and get lucky is not combo.
That's literally combo.
Now, we've talked about this. There's granularities to combo. The word in the English language, unfortunately, does not encompass it all.
Drew these 2 cards that otherwise do not do good things together, but together they win the game. That's the definition.
Anyway, it was like a big. So first of all, it was a bad hero, and then it was like a deck that. It was a really, really bad combo deck that did something that was like fundamentally very uninteractive and kind of annoying when you got high rolled by it. So it got a bit of
hella. It was your hella.
Yeah, it definitely was. So it got a bad rap. Okay. It got support through the years, and now it's fine. It's still probably the worst warrior out of the 3, but it's like very, very playable. And I still have to like. I'm just known as the person who. I'm not saying I'm not the person, but I definitely called him the card disadvantage hero and was not a fan of the hero years ago. I still don't love it, but like I'm held accountable for like his
you're
old
not
power
allowed
level.
to like this is one of the worst things about like I think card gamers in general, but maybe it's just people, is there's absolutely no appreciation for like changes in context. Where someone will be like, you said this 3 months ago, and it was like, what the fuck? The entire format was different. What are you talking about? I said this 3 months ago. That was 3 months ago. This is now. And like the inverse of that is someone to be like, I was doing this 3 months ago, and it was like, congratulations, you were probably fucking wrong to be doing that 3 months ago.
Yeah. So that's what Bolton is. But there's honestly a lot of. So another funny contextual one is like there's been multiple Guardian heroes. Some of them have been obscenely overpowered and have rotated out of the format. But there's one that started at the beginning called Bravo, and like I would always say that Bravo sucks because he sucked in comparison to the other options, like the ones that have since gotten removed from the format. And now that they don't exist anymore, people are like, and then Bravo does well. They're like, I thought you said Bravo sucks. It's like, what? No, He was way worse than his other option that played the same cards and just had a better hero ability. But now since that's gone, yeah, he's the best guardian because he's the only fucking guardian. Like what? It's just changes in context are not taken into appreciation. But that's okay. That's a small price to pay. To be able to hop on the internet and talk about things that I don't know. You don't know shit about. You don't need a degree. You don't need nothing.
I think that's like the motto of all podcasts.
What?
Just get on the internet and talk about things you don't know shit about.
Yeah. It's a hard life. You know, the funniest thing to me, I honestly think like being a YouTuber, depends on what kind of YouTuber you are. It's pretty hard. Like it's pretty challenging. And I think people extrapolate that to podcasting. And I've had a lot of people come up to me and they're like, yeah, like I like what you do. And he's like, I'm sure it's tough. And like, I'm like, hold on. It is not. I was like, hold on.
This is the easiest job in the world. Do not let anyone tell you this shit is hard.
People do tell them that. Like, I know other podcasters that have similar things, but that talk about how hard it is. And, you know, I'm not going to go here nor there with that. But there are people that they get the context. They're like, I know how hard it is. I'm like, hold on. It is not hard. It is anything but hard. Hopping on to have a chat with your friend for an hour. It's not fucking hard. It's not hard.
I will say I sometimes struggle to stream because there's like a social expense and a sort of time locked in for it where it's just like, you know, I have a headache. Am I really going to be able to do my job well for 4 hours? Right. Because one of the things about having a normal job is you don't have to do it well all the time. You can just fuck off. Right. Yeah. Like if I'm at work, you know, I'm doing my job, but I'm doing like, you know, I'm there for 8 hours. I'm not doing 8 hours of work. Let's be real. OK, RIP to my old employers. I hope you never hear this. Right. But like, if you are at a job, you can, you know, get up and go get some water and go to the bathroom. And these are things that you cannot really. These are things that you cannot really do as a streamer. Right. Like you can take a lunch break, right? And as a streamer, you can't do that. So one of the things I really like about podcasts, YouTube, things of that nature is it's on my schedule, right? Like, and like, I do think that like at that point, it's like, oh man, this is such a blast and so easy because fundamentally, I love yapping. I love the sound of my own voice. I think I'm the smartest person on the planet. I love yapping. I would do this for free. Sometimes I walk around the apartment having imaginary arguments with people. Like this is something
do this for free.
That's true. I don't get paid for this podcast. I literally do this like, for free. I have never made a dime off the Snapshot. That is actually 100% true.
I would do this for free. And then continues to do it for free.
Yeah, I would do it for free. I guess I never really thought about it. I do this for free. Damn.
Hey, brand exposure. So the thing is like, I'm selling you the dream.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm working for exposure for Brendan.
I'll level with everybody though. Because everything that's hard about podcasting, and this might apply a lot to YouTube as well. Everything that's hard about it is strategic in nature. It's not actually like a level of input time commitment or things are technically these hard to do. It's all strategic. So there's a reason why some people do it and are not successful, but it's not like it's so hard all the time. Like, no, it's not. And the reason I bring it up is because people literally do come up to me and they're like, I know how hard it is. I'm like, bro, please don't say that.
Well, hold on, Brendan. Let me push back on it. I'll tell you when it's fucking hard. Tax time.
Holy fuck. Yeah. So if there's any CPAs listening, basically
we're laughing, but he's not joking.
I paid my personal taxes. I did all my business taxes. I did them myself, so they're done wrong. There's like I saw a stat somewhere. It's like even if a CPA does your taxes, it's like X% wrong, or something. I'm sure that's bullshit, and some CPAs are just like screaming. But yeah, I did my taxes.
I know what hold on. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to cut in because I know that was just an attempt to get a CPA to comment so you could be like, hey, can you do my taxes? I know what that was.
If you exist, let me know because they're definitely done wrong. Basically, I submitted them. They're like, you owe no tax. And I was like, excuse me? I played my personal, but apparently
get played in court. It's just going to get played in your tax evasion trial.
I forgot that I'm actually liable for that. Oh my God.
Hey, shout out to the judge. Shout out to the jury.
I just want to take this time to say taxation is theft. No, I'm joking. Please don't put me in jail.
Let's talk about the little tyrannies of paying your taxes.
Hey, that's a little bit. I could talk about that. I could talk
about how I object to where those taxes are going, but I think generally taxes are probably a pretty good thing. I think, the issue is all the bad things that they're doing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about there. But at the end of the day, I feel like no matter how much I pay, I just kind of feel like I'm getting fucked. And a lot of that comes from the healthcare stuff. A lot of that.
Yeah, I would love to pay taxes into a healthcare system. That'd be fucking cool.
Yeah.
Instead, we pay taxes into drones.
Like I have a piece of paper right here, and it's just crazy because we've talked about this, and we'll close it out soon. But like we're just going. They're just 20 minutes a yap. My coverage genuinely, I can almost go to no doctors. They don't take them. You have to go through. You can find doctors. You have to go through their system, but it's like a very niche amount. You have to wait a long time. Like the intake can be a pain in the ass. And yeah, let's just say it's not the best. You can get healthcare. My prescription is really expensive. Blood tests are expensive. Any diagnostic testing is expensive. So you're like, how much does this cost you? Well, it costs me like $30 a month. That's because it's being subsidized by the government, which you can say that's a W, tax W for healthcare.
That is actually a W.
Here's the L. The amount that government is being billed for this is $451 a month.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. And like that's the L. It's like, why does it cost this much money?
Right. It's because we've inserted middlemen into health insurance instead of having a single payer healthcare system that we could much easily do this thing and actually have healthcare at a reasonable price when there aren't a million blood sucking leeches inserting themselves in the system, billing the government $450 or $75,000 for routine medical procedures in order to just like attach themselves to the money hose that is the federal government. Like, we should be paying taxes to something that cuts those people out. That is my fundamental contention. And that is called a single payer healthcare system. Shout out to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. The problem is like the system is actually the other way, where I think that it actually incentivizes and attracts those people.
Yes,
it does the
we
opposite.
have just so much in America. I would say, like, you could argue, like, since Reagan, I think that's like the big turning point where it's just like what people do in DC is attempt to attach private companies to a money spigot. Like, there's just a flow of money out of there. And so it's just like, hey, government, we will do this for you. Give us some of that money. And the assumption is that, like, the market will result in like the cheapest possible thing. And I think we can all see from healthcare that is complete fucking horse shit. And that actually one way to get prices lower is to remove all the middlemen who are in there trying to like just siphon money to themselves and, pay themselves millions of dollars to be the CEO of a company that doesn't need to exist. Yeah. I think we've all established where my politics are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. A strong strategic choice from those businesses, but us on the other end.
If I had no conscience and the right connections, buddy,
that's where I would
be. Yeah. I would be like, that is free value.
It's just a bummer.
That's a value proposition.
Yeah. It's just a bummer that we very far removed from it are forced to pay the piper with this kind of system.
Abolish insurance. Abolish all health insurance. Get everyone on single payer, and then
let's be clear about my hierarchy. Abolish all this bullshit with health insurance. Abolish $50 fines with turds. That's going to go
right. That's higher.
It's higher.
Yeah. Right. It's a more pertinent problem.
Yeah, I don't want to get people to get confused.
Yeah, like on the tyranny scale, the dog poop thing.
I'm like really upset about this. Right. Health insurance,
you'll deal.
I mean, I never get sick, so.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
All right. If you enjoy this podcast, the number one thing you do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Video version of this on YouTube at youtube.com/@the_snapshot. Hit the subscribe while you're there. See those Lorana mats? My Lorana channel is bigger than this now. And it's a week old.
Because you have more dubs on Lorana.
There's nowhere to get dubs in Snapshot in the Marvel Snap. I'd be racking up.
God, I wish I could win an FNM for $1,500.
Hey, it's not FNM. That's blasphemy. These are hard. These are hard events. So they are only like 40 people. Which I mean, that's probably like what a Magic. I don't know. I think it's like Magic, like PTQ or RCQ range. Flesh and Blood is.
I think kind of depends on where you are.
Yeah,
I've definitely been to
Dallas,
40-person FNMs, right? Like I don't know.
I'm in Dallas, so it's there's a lot of people, but it's pretty competitive. It's not an FNM. The thing is, I don't care about it. Trust me, my ego doesn't care about it. You could say these are easy. I just don't want other people who want like one to feel
I wouldn't keep bringing it up if you didn't react so strongly, but since you reacted so strongly the first time, I was like, I have to do it again.
Nah. Like, I actually don't care. The thing is, like,
that's what everyone who doesn't care says is I actually don't care.
No, I went on a little bit of a heater. I feel like I'm doing people disservice. I go around saying they were easy. No,
I mean, I like, to be clear, I have no knowledge of how easy these are. I'm literally just doing this to annoy you. Like I have no information. I've just picked what I thought was the funniest option here. Yeah. It's like, if you're like if you're watching basketball and you're just like, man, the Phoenix Suns fucking suck, and you've watched like 4 Suns games all season, but you're just like, I'm an expert on the Phoenix Suns now. And you're incidentally correct, right? Like they do suck, but you have no, like where you started from has no basis in fact. You just picked a stance and decided to go at it.
Listen, I'm sure these events are very hard to win, but for me, they were easy. Anyway, Twitter's a Brendan APG, KM SMS, KM streaming in the evening, sometimes when he doesn't have a headache and when there's not a hot location. And
well, I'm never sick. So
but why are we paying so much for the healthcare then? I don't understand.
I do not have healthcare. I will die if something bad happens.
We talked a lot about.
I do not have the money for it.
Good strategic decisions during this podcast. Yeah. That sounds like a bad one.
I'm all in, bro. I never get sick.
Oh shit! All right, CPAs, insurance consultants, please comment below. We can use
doctors who want to give me healthcare for free.
Yes,
let me know,
because I'm sure that has no liability issues. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Underground, unlicensed physicians,
drug dealers,
hit my DMs.
Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.